Hey folks, I have been down some rabbit holes in my time and I usually get out pretty quickly, but I have been down this rabbit hole for about 2 years. I started off in my quest to rephotograph my negatives and make some reasonable scans down at Fotocare with John Slazenger, who showed me the setup and showed me everything. And since then, I've been kind of kicked out of Fotocare and told to get my own setup. So I've been doing that over the last few months. I'm nearly there and I've learned a lot. And I thought today I'd want to show you where I'm at with my own home setup and some tips and tricks, things to do, things not to do, things that I've done that you probably shouldn't, and vice versa. So let's go. Let me show you. Being Mark Mann, I decided to try and cut as many corners as humanly possible. Trying to work with stuff I already had, trying to like jerry rig stuff. Let me tell you, it didn't work for me. I didn't get the results that I wanted. So when I first went to John a couple of years ago at Fotocare, he told me I needed a Kaiser stand and he told me not to compromise. So luckily I reached out to my buddy Kaiser, and they have lent me an RS1, which is absolutely beautiful, absolutely fantastic. And if there's any way you can get this, I strongly advise it, because a good base is going to solve a lot of problems in the future. The other thing that Kaiser has so wonderfully lent me, and you know, it's a problem because I really don't want to send it back. You may have to pry it from my cold, dead hands, is a prolite LED, which is by far the best light source I've even tried whilst doing this setup. It's beautifully bright, it's beautifully even. And the other thing which is wonderful is big enough that I can actually do contact sheets. Two things really try not to skimp out on are your base, your copy stand, and your light source. Okay, let's talk about cameras. Try and use the camera you have. Hopefully it's going to be good enough. I am using a camera that I own. It's a Leica SL2. It's not a medium format camera, it's a 35mm, but I think that has more than enough megapixels, and it's been giving me really nice scans, even though I've tried other cameras and other things. The idea of going to buy one specifically for this when I own one was not a consideration for me. We are using a Sigma lens. It's a Sigma 105 Art Series lens, and it's macro 1:1 or 1:2. Somebody tell me, not sure, but it's definitely macro. And I love this lens. I love it for making photographs, making portraits, and also it's been the perfect lens that I've found so far for copying. And I can copy from 35 to 120 to 4x5. And it's made my copying workflow a little easier to have one lens that I've got to know a little bit and I really like. Finally, equipment wise, you're going to need something to kind of put your negatives in and on. There are loads and loads of different ways. Lots of people are making different stuff. Find the one that suits you. The important thing to look for is how flat it's going to keep your negative, which is really all that kind of matters. I'm using the system that Fotocare created, and I really like it. It's certainly not the least expensive version of how you can do this, but after trying some other stuff, I decided that Fotocare had done a really good job. So that's the system I'm using. A couple of other tools that you're definitely going to need is a level, a mirror, and some kind of leveling base that gives you some maneuver on your camera to get everything straight on your final checks. I'm gonna level with you. You gotta level. Nothing. All right, it's not fun. I don't find it easy, but you gotta do it. I'm not gonna go deep into how to do it. It's pretty obvious. You wanna start getting every surface from the bottom up level. Start with your desk, move on to your stand. This Kaiser stand's really easy. The feet are adjustable. You can level here. It's also got a leveling knob here. Try and get that level. Next stage is putting on your light source. I'm just going to lift this on. Once again, now you're going to level that out That looks pretty good because we spent some time doing it before. And that looks pretty good. Take your time, get this right. Put on your film holder or scan holder or whatever it is, and make sure that's level. Finally, what I'm going to do is jump up and just put this on my camera, which is pretty good there. And pretty good there. All right, what's the mirror for? Well, the mirror is our last bit of balancing and leveling. I put the mirror over kind of where the negative will be, and I've taken a photo of my camera. So in theory and in principle, the lens should be right in the center of the frame. So I've brought up some guides here on CaptureOne, and I can see that left to right, I'm in pretty good shape. Top to bottom, not as good. The camera needs to tilt this way a little bit. So when I was talking to you about that three-way plate, I have that attached to my stand. I'm just going to make a couple of adjustments and see if I can get it a little closer to where it should be. And that to me looks pretty good. Just going to take another quick photo here and check it, even though I think it's going to be fine. Yeah, that looks a lot better. So I'm leveled and I'm center, and I'm going to get my negative in and take a photograph. Caveat to the mirror section, you can buy a laser straightener thing, which goes on the bottom, fires a laser up, fires a laser down. I thought it was an unnecessary expense at around 250 bucks. You might think it's the way to go. If you do, go for it. I just didn't find by using it, the differences were worth the 250 bucks, but do what you gotta do. CaptureOne, Lightroom, CaptureOne. I don't have a strong opinion either way. I'm actually very fond of both programs for different things. The reason that I'm going to capture in CaptureOne today is because my camera doesn't have live view on Lightroom, and I kind of like live view to see what I'm doing, but it doesn't CaptureOne. So I'm going to capture in CaptureOne. Then I'm going to show you two ways to process these files from negative to positive. One is a super simple way using a plugin in Lightroom. The other one is a little more complicated, takes a little more work, and that's in CaptureOne. We'll compare the two, and really you can make the choice yourself. So let's get started. All right, so my negative is set up, it's ready to go. I'm going to tap the back of my camera to focus. So here is our first picture. Now I'm going to do something which you maybe should do, maybe shouldn't do. Once again, it's how far down this rabbit hole you want to go. Every lens is different, every camera is different, every sensor is different, everything is always different. But each lens has a place where it's sharpest. Now a lot of people say in the middle of the lens, you know, f8, f11, f5.6. Which one is sharpest? I'm going to run through, make 3 of the same exposures with 5.6, f8 and f11, and I'm going to show you that there actually is a difference, and you should probably do this little experiment to see where your lens falls. I've taken 3 images, one at 5.6, one at f8, one at f11, and I've adjusted the time to make them all the same. What we're looking for is sharpness. I've zoomed in to 1200%, and by far for me the one that's sharpest is 5.6. So my lens appears to be the sharpest at 5.6. This is going to be different with every lens, every setup. I think it's worth doing. It's an extra 10 minutes. It's a pain in the ass, but it's worth doing in Photoshop, comparing the 3, and I know that 5.6 is going to be sharpest for me, so I'm going to shoot this roll at 5.6. So here is 5.6. Now, something that's controversial and is always going to remain controversial, and is purely taste and choice, because there's no right and no wrong, which is a hard thing, is exposure. So a lot of people will say in tutorials that you're looking at this exposure meter here, and you kind of want to get close to 0. Let me go there, and we'll see if we agree or disagree on this bit. Okay, so this is now set at 60th. I'm going to take this photo. So here we have a 60th, and it looks pretty nice. I think what's almost more important is to be looking at our histogram here. The histogram goes from, it shows you from -2 to 2. I think you want to be as even in that as possible. At 60th, at 5.6, it's pretty even. Even though this exposure meter is showing about half a stop under. So I think your most important place to look is on this histogram here, and make sure that it's kind of, if it is above and below the 2 and the -2, that it's pretty even there. Now, as I mentioned, there's many different ways to turn this from a negative to a positive. I'm going to start with the super easy one, which I kind of like, and that involves a plugin in Lightroom. So what I'm going to do at this point is pop that picture into Lightroom, and then I'll show you how this plugin works. So I have my image shot 5.6 at 60th of a second. It's in Lightroom now. It's the raw DNG file that I've imported from CaptureOne. First thing I'm going to do is go into develop, and I'm going to set the white balance to the base of the film. Just pick my little white balance tool there and set it to the base of the film, and that's all I'm going to do. That's a lie. There's one other thing. I'm going to do a little crop here. So I just crop out anything not necessary just for a minute. We can go back and uncrop in a sec, but just want to make sure that I've got nothing excess there. I'm ready to open the plugin. It is called Negative Convert Pro. It's pretty good. We're going to have a link up for it. Tell me what you think, but this is how you do it once it's installed. I'm going to go to Control-Alt-N, get the interface, and I'm just going to do Convert Negative. A converted image. And that's pretty much how it looks. We have loads and loads and loads of settings to play with to adjust, but I thought it would only be fair to show you how it does out the box. I'm going to apply that. I'm going to open this in Photoshop for fun. All right, folks, so there is our file. Listen, you can very easily say, we're good to go, move on, do whatever little things you want to do in that. And I gotta say, for a plugin, I think this is fantastic. It works very, very well. But let me run one through in CaptureOne, and we can look at them both, and then you guys can decide. So this is our image open raw in CaptureOne. Once again, the first thing we do is going to go to our little gray balance and gray balance off the film base here. Next thing we're going to do again is we're going to go to the crop tool, and we are going to try and do the same thing. We're going to cut out all the unnecessary. So once you've done that, you are going to go to your adjust settings, or however you got it set up. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go down to your levels here. And I'm going to reverse these two numbers here. So this one is going to be 255. And the one on the other side is going to be 0. And that will give you a quick reversal of your image. Then the next thing you're going to do is you are going to come down to your curves. And this is a bit that is kind of a little bit tricky. I'm going to go to my red. Okay, now at this point what we're going to try and do is take out everything that is not red here where it's not reading. So I'm going to slide that little slider in as close as I can to where the curve starts, which is not bad. I'm going to do the same thing here on the top. So basically I've moved to these two curve points in, So if you see this line, it's at the top of the bottom of the curve here and at the end of the curve there. I'm going to go along to my green and I'm going to do the same thing. Go to my blue. There we have our quick reversal this way. I would leave this as what would be your raw negative file and then do any more color correction in Photoshop. For comparison reasons, let's export this into Photoshop. So here are two images. This one on the left is CaptureOne, the way I've kind of worked out how to do it with the help of lots of different people. And the one on the right is Negative Lab Pro, which is a plugin for Lightroom. Listen, once again, I would try them both. They would both need work done to get them where I wanted them to be. I'm sure I could get them both to where I wanted to be with my tweaks in Photoshop, but two different ways to do it. In summary, this is a rabbit hole. Go down it. It's good fun. Couple of definite things to think about. Don't skimp on your copy stand. The sturdier, the heavier, the more accurate, the better. So I've gone with, well, at the moment I have this Kaiser. Don't skimp on your light table. Also, I highly recommend the Kaiser. Whichever camera you use, you're going to do the best you can. Use the best, as I say, this Sigma 105 macro art lens has been wonderful for me. As far as Lightroom and CaptureOne, whichever you're more comfortable with. If you prefer the software, use the software. But it's really, really satisfying when you get something beautiful and you've shot it on film. So worth going down that rabbit hole. And we will see you next time. Bye. Do the like and subscribe thing. You know, it's so funny. I wish I could show you a picture of Jacob going. So like and subscribe and we'll see you next time. Bye.